Hello and welcome back. I am, of course, Tony Toon. I am the Walrus.
And welcome back. This is Leanne Palmer, and I am your fairy.
All right. So for this video, we kind of touched on it a little bit in the introduction video. But if you're going to talk about politics in the modern world, you got to talk about the Emperor of Mankind, President Donald Trump. You're not a Trump supporter?
No, I don't necessarily like Trump. I don't support some of his decisions. I don't necessarily like him as a person, but I will offer him and afford him the respect that he deserves and the respect that the office of the presidency deserves, because he was elected to that office.
Yes. He is your president, people. Although that hashtag has kind of died down, I think. Not many people talk about that anymore. But basically, I think one of the reasons you really don't like Trump is his demeanor. He's rude. He's crass. He's kind of like me. He's kind of a jerk.
It's more than that. It goes down to, okay, you're kind of a jerk,
Mm-hmm.
as we talked about in the introduction video.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like how he treats people. I don't like how he treats women. I don't like the way he talks about women. Among other things. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not fit for the presidency, because the way he talks, especially before he was elected, falls under the freedom of speech.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't have to like everything that everybody says.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I mean, Trump, I like Trump because, how should I word it? We needed someone to push back against political correctness and the media. One of my, one of the points I bring up when I'm talking about Trump and is I described his election as a long overdue and well-deserved smack in the mouth. Now, I got blocked by a lot of people on Facebook when I described it that way. But here's the example. I mean, I didn't vote for Mitt Romney and I didn't vote for John McCain because I didn't like them. Mostly because they were kind of pushovers. But you look at the Mitt Romney situation. The media was on him. There's not enough women in your staff. There's not enough women. So one day, you may remember this, he has the binder full of women. He literally has a binder full of women's resumes. And the media narrative was, oh, this is how Republicans think about women. They own them. They're just commodifying them. And Mitt Romney said nothing. He didn't push back. He didn't hit back at all. And it was like, I can't respect you because, they sit there, and one of the arguments I heard is, well, if he would have hit back as hard as Trump does, look at the country now. We're so divided. It's not good for the country. Well, how is it good for the country to let the media get away with this type of behavior? I mean, let's take, for example, here's probably a better example. I'll use a good Trump, bad Trump, to quote Ben Shapiro. The Megyn Kelly situation. The question she asked about political correctness was a perfectly legitimate question in the first Republican presidential debate. And Trump nailed the question when he said we didn't have time for it. But then he kind of took it too far and kind of got into this feud with Megyn Kelly. And when he talking about how he talks about women. And then, he goes on to say she was bleeding out of her ears and nose and all that stuff. Obviously, it's a reference to periods. I mean, let's be honest. That's obviously too far. But then you take the opposite thing, which is the Billy Bush tapes, I think it was, when him and Billy Bush were talking, and that was they grab him by the female parts. Okay. And everyone was sitting there yelling that was assault and all that stuff. He was just making a joke about how when you're rich and powerful, women let you get away with things, which is true.
And even I, as a non-Trump supporter, understood that. And because he wasn't necessarily saying, hey, this is a good thing. He wasn't necessarily saying, hey, it's a bad thing. He said, hey, it happens. I'm rich. Women want to be around me. They'll let me do what I want. And they won't complain about it because they basically think they're going to get my money.
Yeah.
Which says a lot about the women.
Yeah.
In that are in the service industry and in that level of class of society.
Yeah. Well, Melania is a trophy wife. I mean, let's be honest, he's only had trophy wives.
Yeah. She is. I've actually been really impressed with Melania, though.
Yeah, I like Melania, too. I do, too.
She has handled herself very, very well over the last couple of years.
Yeah. She got a lot of gruff when she basically plagiarized Michelle Obama's speech, but they had the same speechwriter. That just goes to talk about a lot of different things about how incestuous a lot of that political stuff is. Because, I mean, it was obvious she didn't write the speech. It was both of them got the same speechwriter, and Michelle Obama happened to talk first. But, anyway.
Right.
But no. And this goes back into... I like Trump because he's forced into issues, immigration. When he first announced and he was talking about, and this was another aspect of fighting back. When he said he was talking about illegal immigration, and he said those drugs, and those rapists, all this human traffickers, all this stuff, and then the media tried to portray it like he was saying Mexicans are that. That's not what he was talking about. He was talking about the coyotes. And, I knew pretty much right away, and you can, I don't know if you had been around at that time, but I had been saying Trump was going to win for a while. I mean,
I had been talking with my roommate for a very long time.
Yeah. And once he didn't apologize for that, I knew he had won, even though he was still at like 10 or 5% in the polls. I was like, I remember being up in college and watching these kids flip out and all this stuff about Trump, and I watched the speech. He didn't apologize, and I said to myself, at the time I still supported Ben Carson and Rand Paul more, but I sat there and I said, well, he just won. That's going to be the 45th president of the United States. And my one big regret in life is I didn't go to Vegas and bet everything I had on it, because oh boy. If I had been thinking about it, I probably would have. But it didn't even cross my mind to do that until later, and someone told me the odds, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I could be a millionaire.
On the flip side, because that's what we're doing here, I talk about the respect for the office of the presidency. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Trump is lacking in a lot of how he talks to America and a lot of how he presents himself. He is the president. He was elected the president. He deserves the respect that the office of the presidency affords. But he's not giving that office the respect it deserves either. In how he treats the press at times, in how he treats the people of America. I think while he is bringing up some very valid points, I think there might be a better way to word it, or a better way to bring those points up that still show respect to his office.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but one of the big points I bring up is the only way we were going to force these conversations, this was one of the big reasons why I voted for Trump, and we've talked about this before, is we were going to have to be assholes about it. Because they weren't listening. You know, we would try to be polite. We tried the Mitt Romneys. We tried the John McCains. We tried to be polite. Okay, you called us racist. You called us sexist. Well, guess what? Now you get Trump.
Right, and I understand that, but 3 years into his presidency, I don't necessarily think we need the outspokenness and bluntness that he comes out with. I think instead of just calling everything fake news, the more respectful way to handle that would be there were inaccuracies in the report, which is actually true.
Yeah.
And I will say that, or there is a bias in the report.
Yeah.
Rather than just saying fake news all the time, or
fake news,
or in the middle of a press conference say, "Oh, your channel posts fake news. I'm not taking a question from you." Take the question from everybody, because we do still have freedom of speech in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they get it wrong, point out that they misquoted him. That's really the biggest thing. And the points of where he'll say something and then say, "Oh, I didn't say it," but we clearly have evidence that he did say it. Now, that either points to severe memory issues, which is a problem in and of itself, or a thing called gaslighting, which is mental abuse on the American people, which is a whole other issue. So I think that there are better ways for him to handle these things that would still show that he respects the office of the presidency.
I could understand that, but I also think, and I think maybe you're lifting the office of the presidency maybe a little bit higher than it actually should be. I mean, you look at Taft, he got stuck in a bathtub. Lyndon B. Johnson once whipped out his man parts to prove why he was in charge, because apparently he was very well endowed. I mean, I think one of the problems is, because of television, because of the 24-hour news cycle, there's been so much emphasis put on optics instead of action. And because you look at beforehand, a lot of these presidents, they were kind of scumbags, to be quite frank. And I kind of hate to say this, but I really don't care that much about the moral character of a politician. Well, I guess I shouldn't put it that way. As long as they're trying to fulfill their duties in an effective way, that is what's the most moral thing to do. Them, Bill Clinton cheating on their wives, or Trump, sleeping with porn stars. I don't really care about that as long as he's fulfilling his moral duty to execute the office.
Right. Okay. I can see that.
Yeah.
And you touched on Bill Clinton, and it brings to mind the whole impeach Trump thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was you or if it was Ezra that I was talking to. But I have pretty much come to the conclusion that the Democratic push, or the Democrats' push to impeach Trump, is retaliation on the Republican Party for impeaching Clinton.
I could see that. I really could see that. I think it's going to backfire on them even worse than it did with the Clinton thing, because quite frankly, Bill Clinton did lie under oath. The worst thing Trump did is get angry and threaten to fire Mueller when he was being accused of being basically a traitor with no evidence. And I could understand why he was angry. And, according to the report, once his advisor sat down with him and said, if you fire with Mueller, that is obstruction of justice, he said, well, fine, we'll just deal with it.
Right.
I mean, Trump, in my view, has showed a lot more restraint in that, because if it was up to me, I'm only half joking about this. I probably would have sat down with my generals by now, and I probably would have purged the Democrat Party down to county clerk, and I'm only half joking about that. But
well, there's a reason some of us are president,
and some of us sitting here.
There are a reason why presidents are elected and some people are not elected as president.
Yeah, I would obviously be a mistake, but in my anger, I would probably. You think Trump would be bad on the Twitter? I'd be on there every day. Just anytime Adam Schiff poked out his head, I'd be like, "Where's the evidence I colluded with Russia? Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence?
Okay,
where's the evidence?"
So I have come to the conclusion that Trump and Twitter are a toxic mix.
Oh yeah, Twitter is a dumpster fire.
But on this, on the flip side of that, Twitter is really where Trump kind of
seized the initiative.
Well, not just that. It's kind of where his knee-jerk reactions go.
Yeah.
And I look at a lot of his tweets and I'm like,
You can't take him too seriously.
He's not really going to do that. He read something or heard something.
And he got a little pissed off.
Like
all of us, and then he went to social media to rant.
Angry, and is ranting on social media like we all do.
Yeah. Like, that's, unless it's... You can tell, unless it's like something like really important, like with the Mexican trade deal, where like he's sitting down breaking down the trade deal, something. When he's just ranting and raving, you can't take it too seriously. Just breathe deep.
He's a person, just like we are.
Yeah.
And that's really what I've had to realize. He is a person. I keep saying this, but you realize that he's a person. Taft, I think, is the one you said that
got stuck in the tub.
And somebody else who whipped out his manhood.
Yeah.
They're people. But that's why I say I respect the office of the presidency while not necessarily agreeing with the person who is in that office, because there's still people.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I think we pretty much covered it. You got anything else to add?
No, I think that pretty much covers both our views on that.
All right. So, like, comment, subscribe. Tell us why you support the God Emperor, because if you're watching this, you're obviously smart enough to support him. And,
Yeah, whatever.
and we'll see you next time.
Oh, questions and comments down below. If there are topics you would like to hear us discuss, put those suggestions down below.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alrighty. We'll see you next time. Bad machine.